The moment I had to start transitioning into, call it the real world, because the rugby world is not as real as what people think. You get bombarded with a lot of things very early in your life, which I don't think is always very healthy.
Also, my wife sat me down and reminded me about the blessings that we actually have. If we run our business, if we run our life with our ego, we forget that the better part of that is running our business and our life with our heart and our soul. And when our ego is that big, we can't acknowledge the failure, and we can't be open to the new possibilities that's there.
The only reason why I'm laughing is because it's so true, like, how are you consistently going to be able to wake up in the morning with energy to take on the challenge? I simply have to keep going until things get better. So you're willing to fight until you get the result. You're willing to try one more time until you get whatever success looks like, for you.
Hello everyone, Jasper Basson here. I'm so excited to have my good friend Gary van Awegen here. I've been sharing a long journey with him since about, I think, 2008 roughly. And it's been one of our monthly accounting clients at Dryk Holdings, our accounting practice. And since then, it also became a very good friend. I believe we will maybe can hear from him as well. Feelings mutual, but yeah, very good friend. And then during this process, I've been witnessing and sharing his stories in overcome adversity, actually on 2 different occasions. I've seen it progress over time and unfolded him into the amazing entrepreneur he is today, and person as well. And so if you're like me and you don't know anything about rugby, then probably you don't know he's been a fly-half for the Western Province, for Stormers, for Eastern Province. Well, that's about what I know about the rugby. He's been a very strong force there, but unfortunately, during that time, he got various knee injuries that he's going to tell us about in a moment. But various injuries actually forced him out of rugby. And at that stage, he actually thought it was the end of his life, end of everything, and discovered a number of other purposes in his life. And subsequently to that, he went into a business, had some business failures because of various things that he will tell us about in a moment. And again, he had to come a certain amount of overcome a few adversities. And yeah, I'm looking forward to his journey, telling us about that. And also, I think the biggest thing is about what I believe is we can learn from success of other entrepreneurs, but even more so, we can learn from how entrepreneurs overcome adversity, because I think that's the more important thing, is how we overcame the adversity. Because anytime, at a certain time in your life, any entrepreneur will get to a wall where you hit failure, where you hit something that really disturbs you, and it feels like you want to stop. So I think very importantly today is how we overcame adversity, and we're gonna have a nice chat. There's no preset questions, so I just told him let's just do it in the flow of the energy, and just whatever is on your heart that need to come out today, let's serve that. So I'm done talking. Gary van Awegen, and thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Jasper. Thank you for the introduction, and it's always great to have a conversation with you, whether that be on one of these live calls that you've got going on a weekly basis, or just in person. I think what you've been doing over the past year, as you mentioned, we've been working together for quite some time. You've been not only helping me, with our books and so forth, but also coaching me and educating me financially on many different levels, which I've really appreciated. But I think what you've been doing over the past year has been really awesome, and making that shift into the field of adding value to other people's lives, entrepreneurs, business owners, and just the general public out there looking at improving themselves. I think you've come a really long way in terms of that, and especially into where the world's transitioning right now. I think you've for one, definitely positioned yourself very nicely with the way that you've pivoted in your business, and once again by the value that you've been adding. So I hope to do that today as well, is maybe to add some value to your audience in whichever way or form, be that, on how to overcome adversity. Obviously, I think adversity is something, it's not like something that you're going to have to overcome once. Obviously we all have a story to tell, and hopefully people can be inspired by a little bit out of my story and a few things I've experienced in my journey thus far. But it's not the first time, it's not going to be the last time, which I think is very important. There's no real bulletproof approach to adversity and overcoming adversity. I think if we think life's going to be all sunshine and roses, and that's what we're sort of striving towards in terms of the way we would like our life to look like, it's definitely not a sunshine and roses kind of experience. And there are always going to be obstacles. Just when you think you've got this thing under control and you've got it all figured out, there's going to be something else that's going to hit you in the face. So I think it's definitely a continual process, and the most important thing is probably just to learn from mistakes, learn from experience, and sort of take it as it comes.
What I found was that when we start really focusing on our purpose, and really I like the word ikigai, because that's the beautiful Japanese word for when we wake up in the morning, so for something bigger than ourselves. But I think when we find that, and that's, I think, a difficult thing to do, but when we find that, then obstacles doesn't really become obstacles, but it really becomes opportunities to grow and opportunities to something new. And we realize that it's just something new. But if we don't follow our purpose, then it becomes difficult to overcome adversity, because it becomes a pain, and you don't see the growth and the opportunity in that. So
I think that's sort of like maybe a discussion on its own regarding purpose, because that can go really deep. But I can definitely relate with that. Maybe I should share a little bit on my story so people can have a little bit more of a glimpse into the whole adversity thing. So, and the purpose thing is actually a big part of it, because, once I started realizing, you don't want to say what life's about, but what you value most in life, I think it does become a little easier to overcome a lot of these challenges. For me, I grew up as wanting to play rugby. That was my main thing. That's what I always wanted to do since I can remember. And a lot of my friends and family will tell you that, wherever I would go, I'd have a rugby ball in my hand. And even if it was a tar road, I'd look at the opportunity to go and just kick that ball around. And very, very driven to become a professional one day, which I had the privilege of being able to do. But it really became a case of 20 odd years leading up to becoming a professional rugby player. That was really what you based your identity on. And that was sort of like who you were known for. And it's really your whole life that led up to this one thing, which was playing professional rugby. And then I had the opportunity to do that for 7-8 years as a professional, which was some of the best years I think I would ever have in my life, because you make so many memories, and being able to do the thing that you love the most is one of the greatest gifts I think any person can have. So it was a real blessing in that sense. But at the same time, the moment I had to start transitioning into, call it the real world, because the rugby world is not as real as what people think. You get bombarded with a lot of things very early in your life, which I don't think is always very healthy. Be that financially, be that a lot of responsibilities being thrown your way at an age where you're not necessarily capable of handling all these kinds of things. The call it the fame, recognition aspect of it at a very young age. The freebies, getting a lot of free things for nothing essentially. All of those things sort of fade away and come to a dead end very, very suddenly when you stop playing rugby. And then you're left with a case of, who am I now? Who is Gary now? Who is whoever as a professional sportsman? That person who you were for 26, 27 years of your life in an instance when it gets taken away from you, and in my case, it was very, very sudden. Obviously, I had various challenges with my knees, and throughout my career, I went through phases where it went really well, and then I went through phases where, it didn't go so well. And I ended up having 8 knee surgeries, which sounds ridiculous in itself, but is the honest truth. And after my last knee surgery, I went to see about 4 surgeons, and each one of them told me, listen, there's not an opportunity for you to continue playing. It wouldn't be wise for you to even try and do that. So that's basically how my career ended. So in an instant, you sort of like have to think of becoming a different person. And it might sound cliche, but there's a big emotional aspect attached to it. In that sense, where you need to sort of, you go on this discovery journey of who you really are and what you stand for and what the next phase is going to be of your life. And I think that in itself for me was quite challenging. It's a case of all of a sudden all those friends and people who used to like being around you, who used to love being your friend, because maybe it reflected well on them, because of who you were at that stage. All of those things fade away, and you sort of like start from scratch in many instances. So, that was quite hard. And it was really only once I started thinking about, what is most valuable regarding this life of ours, and reassessing our values, if I can put it that way, that it helped me to sort of transition into the next phase of my life where I am right now. It's been 3 years now since retiring in professional sport. But I think that's sort of like the purpose thing that you were maybe alluding to now. And I think you've got a better way of articulating it, because I know you've done a lot of work with someone like Robin Sharma. I know you went to one of his conferences, and he's very big on those kinds of things. But definitely a process.
So I think my very first question, that just came from the comment that you just made, but how did you adapt? There's obviously a big growth opportunity for you there, in the sense of, like you said, everybody liked you, everybody wanted to be around you because, hey, it's a fly half of Western Province of Stormers, and it's a big hype around that. And all of a sudden, there's almost want to say nothing. How did you adapt in yourself, in your growth, from being there to I don't say nothing, but you understand what I'm saying. So from 0 to hero, or from hero to zero, all of a sudden.
I think that, if you look at a lot of professional sportsmen who have retired, even someone like Johnny Wilkinson, who in my instance was part of the industry I come from in terms of the rugby. He went through a depression for, I think, 3 or 4 years, and he was the world's best player. He reached the epitome of what it was to be a professional rugby player, won the World Cup. I won't say single-handedly, but he was knighted. What else can you say? Even someone like him found himself in a place where he's like, well, who am I now? And I think there were a lot of things that sort of played a role in that. Family is definitely one. Charmaine, my wife, she was with me every step of the way. She knew what I was going through, and she was one of the only people who really understood where I was coming from, because we've actually been together since 2000 and I better get this right, probably 2006.
I want exact date.
No. It's no exact date. Sort of feel that out. But 2006, since school, she's been a part of my dreams and ambitions since day one. She's been with me through every setback and injury that I had, every knee surgery, the comeback thereafter. And I think she really gave me a lot of perspective. And I remember at one stage, she said to me that it's time now for me to open up, because I didn't talk about the way that I necessarily felt about this whole thing. And I think as men, you sort of like tie yourself up into a place, and it's almost like a knot where you can't move forward because you don't talk. It's almost like it's manly to and it's very like masculine not to talk about how you feel, which in my case was pretty disastrous, because for the first, I'd say, year after retiring, I was so angry at the sport. I never watched a game of rugby. I wasn't involved in coaching. I declined every opportunity that friends asked, would I come help out here, or maybe consider coaching a team or giving back, and whatever the case might be. And that was all due to anger and frustration that I've built up inside. I was angry at the game. I was angry at God for why he took away that opportunity. And that all built up. I didn't talk about it. And I remember coming to a point where I got home one day and I was so upset. And Charmaine sat next to me on the couch and she just said to me, listen, like, you got to talk now. Like, you got to open up. Just tell me everything. And I just started speaking, and I just started basically bawling my eyes out. And during that, I'd say half an hour to 45 minutes of opening up, just sharing my frustrations, my anger, talking about how I felt at that stage. It was almost like such a massive weight off my shoulders. And I could actually then face this head on for the very first time, where I could be realistic with myself and be honest with myself about how I felt. And I actually stopped blaming circumstances, and I actually took responsibility for the way that I felt, and responsibility for my life and my future hereafter, which I never did before that. I blamed everybody else for the situation I found myself in, but I never looked inward. And I think she really helped me and guided me through that. And the thing is, Jasper, I think this is just my story. People have been through far worse. For me, it was a case of a dream that couldn't be kept alive, where probably the thing I loved the most in life was taken away from me. But there are a lot of people who suffer a lot of other things that are far worse, But I think in general, wherever somebody is, you need to be really honest with yourself, and you need to realize that, life is about more than just your ambitions, your desires, and even sometimes your dreams. God has a way of molding us into different directions at certain stages that are going to end up being better for you, even though you don't want to realize it right now. And Charmaine helped me with that. She actually started getting me to think about family for one, and she mentioned that just something small, quality time that we got to spend together, where we never had that opportunity when I was playing professional sports, because I was so focused on just that. And I would be grumpy before a game, and I would be just, I would isolate myself week in and week out, leading up to a game. And little things like that started giving me perspective on what I have. This is what I've lost. Yes, that's fine. Talk about it, face it head on, but then start thinking about what you have and what you can be grateful for. Once again, it sounds really cliche, but once you start going through this yourself, and it's not something you just read in a book, but you do it yourself, it really does help, and you start realizing that the small things in life, which we oftentimes end up missing, which I still do. This is not, once again, it's not something that, it's not a quick fix. You still do it. You get frustrated about just simple things in life. But if you realize what you actually have and what you can be grateful for, I think that played a massive role in helping me transition, and to have that constant to have it reaffirmed consistently. So I actually started a gratitude journal every morning. I'd write down what I'm grateful for, just to open up my mind as to some of the smallest things, family, friendship, even a coffee that you're having at this very moment in time, the fact that you have a roof over your head, the fact that you still have an income, that you have parents who are still alive, that you can spend time with, those kinds of things. And I think even more so now today, you start realizing in the times we're living in right now, that some of the things we were chasing are not necessarily the things we should be chasing.
Yes.
And me saying that is like me talking to myself and almost like preaching to myself, because I struggle with this daily. Those are the things that frustrate us at the end of the day. Oftentimes the materialistic things and things that get in the way of us achieving those things which are materialistic, that frustrate us if we can't necessarily get that. So that was sort of like my transition. You know, it was coming from a place of everything is about you. You the man. You this. You that. Everybody loves you. Like you are who you are because of your social status. Now all of a sudden you're not that anymore. So who are you? You used to value that a lot, and that's where you got your energy from. But now you got to find something else. You know, you sort of like got to, and the only way that you can really do that, I found, is by reassessing your value system and understanding and going to have a very long, hard think about what is it that you actually want out of life. You know, what is important for you? Because whatever is most important for you is where you're going to have your most focus. And at the end of the day, those are the things that are going to frustrate you.
You mentioned a lot of nuggets in there. I hope a lot of people hear that or got that. I think from my side, I think I went through a similar, and I've shared it with you on an interview before, but I also went through a terrible business failure. And funny enough, the same, well, also my wife sat me down and reminded me about the blessings that we actually have.
Yeah.
And not about the failure that we're going through. So, and because we are made, the ego is, I like the word of the ego because I've seen that in martial arts and everything in my life as well. The moment our egos are that big, we all have an ego, obviously, but if we run our business, if we run our life with our ego, we forget that the better part of that is running our business and our life with our heart and our soul. And when our ego is that big, we can't acknowledge the failure, and we can't be open to the new possibilities that's there. And something I've got from there, it seems like the same to you, is that I need to trust my wife more about her opinions and everything. And I think that's a lesson for a lot of men, especially in South Africa. Let me just, coming from me as well.
The only reason why I'm laughing is because it's so true, you know, like so many times that I won't say it's not always trust, but just listen. Well, trust in that sense, in context, trust definitely. Yeah. And I hope Charmaine's not watching this. I don't want to give it to her. I can't afford this, Jasper.
You can't afford this. Well, the moment I've started trusting my wife's senses, life seemed to be working out better for me than when I started trusting her senses as well. So I think that's a good lesson for all of us, because we as men, our egos are very big, and we tend to not be open to listen to them or to anybody else. I mean, that's why we need mentors to be able to help us grow, to open up new possibilities for us. So there was something else I wanted to, like you mentioned, COVID-19. I think anybody that went through a massive failure before and overcome that by, like we discussed, I think COVID-19 showed us that life will never be the same prior to COVID-19, and that materialistic things are only a part of success. Money, materialistic things, only a part of that. So there's so much more to be grateful for. Spending time with amazing people, spending time in amazing places, just having your family around you that's healthy, like you mentioned. I mean, I also agree with I try to do a 3-point gratitude list every day. It's just gratitude create happy people, and happy people build successful businesses. I mean, that is as simple as it is. And the small things become the big things. So I mean, if you grateful for the small things, it always seems to that the bigger things start surfacing into your life, just because you are grateful for the smaller things. And when you start being grateful, you start sharing value, and when you start sharing value, you receive abundance. I mean, it's like a big spiral of just everything coming together as we start running everything with our heart and our soul, and a lot less with our mind and with our ego.
So true. I think just on that, Jasper, I think it's like, once again, I don't think there's a bulletproof approach. There's not just like a one-way method. Sure. You know, it's different. Like Charmaine and I are very, very different in this sense, where she's someone who she's very comfortable with living life day by day, come what may. I'll sort of like handle it. I don't want to. She's like, I don't want to worry about what's going to happen in a month or 2 months from now. You know, which is a very good thing in the sense that she is genuinely very consistent regarding her emotions, because every day she just takes it as it comes, you know, where I sort of like am a little bit more forward thinking, and I would get to a place where, oh, okay, COVID-19, what's going to happen in the next 3 months? What's going to happen to your business? What do you need to start thinking about in terms of transitioning and moving with the times and making sure that you, as best possible, handle the situation? And that kind of thinking can lead you into a lot of worry and doubt at the same time. So I think it's a case of, if you know why you're doing something and what your intentions are regarding that something. Give you an example. If you're building a business just purely to make money, I found I've tried that in the past and it didn't end well for me, because how much money is ever going to be enough? It's that old adage of, you know, you're just going to keep on wanting the next thing and the next thing and the next. And that's great, because we want to have progress as human beings. We need that to survive and to thrive. But it becomes very, very hard if you're not getting your way and you do run into challenges, which we are all going to do. And we've got a lot of these days already. That's a constant process. So how are you going to enable yourself to consistently, if you know challenges are always going to be there, how are you consistently going to be able to wake up in the morning with energy to take on the challenge? And the way I see it is you can't run from it. You got to face the challenge head on. You know, you got to have a kind of like a warrior mentality to say, listen, come what come may, I'm ready for the fight. I'm willing to go to battle. But where does that energy come from? And you know, the way my mind works is I ask myself a lot of very hard questions. For instance, what are people going to think, and how will they remember me when I'm dead? What will they remember when I'm not here anymore? What is my family going to remember about me? You know, not necessarily what I leave them, but they'll remember a lot of other characteristics. That's what I would want them to remember: how I went about my business, how I built things, what I valued, the time I spent with them, the person that I was and what I stood for, is something that can drive you every single day. You know, and that really helps when it comes to tough times, because that for me helped me to realize that, geez, okay, as bad as things are, as doom and gloom as they seem, and even though it feels like the world is caving in on you, I mean, you still have that fire and that vigor to say, you know what, it ain't over until it's over. I have a big enough reason as to why I don't necessarily want to do it, but I have to keep going. I simply have to keep going until things get better. So you're willing to fight until you get the result. You're willing to try one more time until you get whatever success looks like, you know, for you. And I think those tough questions that you ask yourself, that's something that's helped me on the journey. What are those things that are going to continuously drive you to just keep on going? Because if it is just material things, you're going to end up quitting. At some stage, you're going to give up. At some stage, you're going to say, I can't handle this anymore. I'm not going where I want to go. I'm not getting what I want to get. My goals and dreams are diminished. I don't know where to go from here. Yeah, but if you reassess and you get a different perspective, and it's almost like you have that perspective of you need to relish in the challenge. How do you get to that place where you can actually relish in the opportunity, where it's actually like just it's just another challenge, but you've become so warrior, like you've got this warrior mindset so ingrained in you that you have no other option but to keep fighting. And you actually love the fight. You end up loving the fight. You end up loving the challenge, because you know that the challenge that you're overcoming is not for you to buy your brand new car. That's not motivating enough. It's for you to become the person who you feel like you deserve to be. It's for you to become the person that your family is going to be proud of. It's for you to become that person where your daughter can look at you and say, I'm so proud of my dad. He's such a hero. He just never gives up. He never quits. And he's always fighting for me. You know, like that, just talking about it just inspires me so much. And once again, it's different for different people. You know, when I tell this to Shemaine, like, it's cool, that's motivating and all, that's the way I operate. But she's like, Gary, I don't want to think about 5 years from now, you know? Where I'm like 5 years from now, things are going to be different because I'm going to fight for the next 5 years if I have to. Whatever the situation looks like now, I don't care. In 5 years from now, I'm going to look back and be so proud of myself that I didn't give up.
Yes.
That's the feeling I'm after. So I don't know. It's a mixed bag, but that's sort of the approach, I reckon.
Yes, no, for sure. Valid points. I'm enjoying listening to you. It's very good advice. I think there's two sides to this coin, and I think the one is exactly what you said. Go reverse engineer. Go to your deathbed and reverse engineer to today, because that's the only way you can actually get to a point where you can, what I don't want to say goals, but what you want to achieve in life. How do you want to remember? That comes back to your ikigai. And why do I wake up in the morning? Do I just wake up for myself and to go make a lot of money for myself? Or do I want to wake up in the morning and serve a lot of people and help a lot of other people, to empower them and for them to make money, or whatever the case may be, create better humans, and in return the money will flow. So I think we have it all the way wrong, in sense of
that's actually true.
Creating value, and then, but in the same sense, start living in the presence. That's something I started doing, is start living in the presence. I've mentioned to you, we had a call just earlier today about something else, and then I mentioned to you about the interview and everything. Previously, about probably my first 25 odd interviews, there was like certain questions, and I was like, that's the way it needs to go. And then for my last about 10 interviews, I just told everybody I interview, let's just use the energy where it needs to go. Let's bless this hour. Hopefully somebody can find value from this. And whatever need to come out in this present moment of today, in this hour, need to add value to somebody's life. Mm. And for us as well. I mean, we learn from each other today in an hour, hopefully. So I think so. I think it's two sides. It's either living in the presence and being open to the presence, and also re-engineer from deathbed to now, and actually just know, like you said, how do you want to be remembered? What legacy do you want to leave behind? But I think a lesson for COVID-19, and that's what I've seen with a lot of people that got stuck in this time, is they're almost like waiting for COVID-19 and lockdowns to get over, to return to their normal life that used to be. The thing is, that will never be the same again. There's a new normal of things that will happen. So if you were in a certain industry, it might be that it will never be there again in the future, or right now and in the future. So be open to the change. And a good example, like in your case, you've played rugby. It wasn't COVID-19, but it was something else. It was your knee. But be open to that change and look where you are now. I mean, you created multiple, and we're going to chat about it in a moment, but you've created multiple businesses and serving a lot of people. It's not just about you. It's not about just your ego in playing rugby. All of a sudden, you are serving a lot more people and add so much value to a lot more people. And I'm sure in hindsight, in a much better place, in a lot way happier place than you used to be. Well, that's just from my view. From for
sure, and I think definitely, I completely agree with you. And just to say this again, like, definitely in a better place, definitely better off in that sense than what we were. So that blessing has definitely, or put it this way, it's definitely been a blessing in disguise, like the old cliche saying would be. But at the same time, I think, Jasper, this is the point. It's never as good as it seems, but it's also never as bad as it seems. That's something what my mentor always reaffirms. It's never as good as it seems, but it's also never as bad as it seems. And the other thing is, the whole point is just life is a bunch of challenges. And even though you are now in a better place, or you might have different business and different income streams, and guess what? Like, the next thing will come, and the next challenge will come again. And then you've got to learn how to overcome that again. And I think it's very, like, sometimes you got a lot of motivational speakers, and I mean, I'm young myself. Like, I mean, all I can share is my story. But at the end of the day, sometimes these things are so theoretical, and things that you read in a book, you read the book and you sort of like think, wow, that's cool. But it's only really until you experience a lot of these things yourself that you can relate and you can actually overcome. And that's why we have to go through things, so that we can grow from experience and grow within that. But I think it's important to realize that it's a continual process. It's not going to end, and you just get better and you do get stronger, but you have to find some kind of mechanism within each and every one of us. You have to find a mechanism whereby you realize that this is why I will be able to overcome anything that comes my way at the end of the day. And yes, some things might be worse than others, and some might be catastrophic at that certain moment in time. But you will still have that something within you that will be willing to fight and willing to overcome, if you can just change your perspective on certain things. You know, and that's continual. I think it's definitely a continuous process.
Yeah, like you just mentioned Robin Sharma, but you always say life and personal growth and personal development is never an event. It's always a process. So it's always a process of aiming to be your best version, but you will never get to that point of your best version. If you get to a point that you believe you're at your best version, you're stuck.
Yeah.
I'm in like, you know, I'm in martial arts. I used to be a kickboxing instructor, and what I always tell the people in the class is, when we had certain exercises that we had to do, like certain rounds, and then it's like 10 minutes, and you just aiming to get to as much rounds as possible in 10 minutes. So it's like almost like a chase for yourself. And I always told them, like, I might be able to do 13 rounds of that in my better, fitter days, and but my previous record might be 5. But I'm striving to do better rounds every time. But I'm not comparing myself to Gary that also doing that. If you do three rounds a day and 4 rounds tomorrow, you've improved yourself. You've improved yourself in that process. And there's nothing to do with me that done 13, 15, or 16 rounds. It's absolutely, you don't compare yourself. And I think that's the biggest thing about what limiting us in growth as well. We compare. I'm comparing myself so much to Gary that I can't find my own ikigai and the way I need to live. So as long as we see it's a constant process of always evolving and developing and growing. I mean, and like you say, that you won't ever get to the point of thinking you are the oak. Let's call it the oak.
And this is from a book. There's a book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Swear Word. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of that, right? But I'm not going to say the swear word. But there's very, very good analogy that this guy uses in terms of obstacles. And the whole point is, as a human, you're always looking for problems. It's in you. Because it's like, okay, there are always going to be problems, but we tend to look for problems as well, because it's in the problem that you discover your next phase of growth. That's how you progress, essentially, is by overcoming problems and solving problems. So his whole point, what he alludes to, is he says that once you realize that you're going to be certain of having problems, you need to know that that's the expectation that you have. But now go ahead and pick the most meaningful problems for yourself to actually overcome. So for instance, if you're sitting and you all that you can do every single day is skinner and talk bad about other people because that floats your boat, and that's the problem you have a continuous problem with other people and how they think and what they do and what they say. Like, that's a minuscule problem. Like, that's not a meaningful problem. But if you have a problem that is, let's assume, in your business, that you're looking at pivoting in some sense to better handle this gig economy that we're moving in, you know, and that's sort of like where you are trying to transition into now. Like, that's a meaningful problem, because that can lead to progress at the end of the day if you can find meaning within that. Or if you're looking at losing weight, let's just use that. That might be a problem that you think you need to look better, so you need to feel better. That's a meaningful thing, because that adds value to your life. You know, that will be able to help you focus more. You'll feel better about yourself. You'll have more confidence. So it's all about just picking those fights, you know, and finding meaning in your problems.
I just want to quickly shout out to everybody that's actually watching today. I see Hannes Dry is on here. Keepa Reddy is one of my friends from Robin Sharma group. Des Buckingham. He's also is my neighbor, and he said she's always right. So it's come still from the wife part, but he also agrees. His wife is also right, always right. So yeah, if you know Gary, if you know me, just shout out, just wave, and just say where you're from, listening or watching from. It's always great to have some conversation going as well, and it's just as us talking. If you have any advice that you also want to share, please share that. I mean, we're open to all the growth that we can get. So yeah, please comment and share there. So Gary, from rugby, you obviously started working towards your business, and then from there there's a few other businesses that also came from there. You started running your business and building your business, and then there were some obstacles during that as well. Not sure what you want to share, what you don't want to share, but that was, well, I know there were some very close friends of yours that almost like sidetrack your business. Always difficult, and also trust issues and everything. So if you want to share that, I'm just going to throw it open there. You can share what you want, and then we can take the lessons from there as well, if you're open to that.
Yeah, sure. I think, I mean, not to go into too much detail on specifics, but once again, I mean, we got to a place where in our business where we were at a very, very prosperous level, and almost felt like you became invincible to a certain extent. It's like that momentum that you experience where it's like you just don't know when it's going to end, which at that stage was great. But with that, you know, comes a lot of other challenges again. Like you mentioned, the willingness to keep learning. I mean, I got to a stage where I thought, like, I think I've got this knuckle down now, you know, and what else is there to learn, you know? And I started trying to reinvent the wheel, and you know, get a lot of the things to evolve around myself, not necessarily the company vision, but my own vision. And you know, that led to a lot of disunity. And I mean, what you were alluding to right now, yes, I mean, one of my closest friends at that stage, we went through, it was a really, really tough time where, you know, he made a couple of mistakes. We were in business together, and he made a couple of mistakes, and that cost us a lot of income. We lost a lot of volume in our business. You know, being in the health and wellness industry, maybe that will give people a bit of context. And in the network marketing industry, you're always building teams, and you're obviously always looking at as much volume of product sales as possible. And I mean, it probably cost us close to 60-70% of our volume due to certain things that he got himself into that really affected our business in a significant manner, and affected a lot of other things, you know, because it's like your best friend, and it was hard, you know. There was a very big emotional aspect to that as well. That in itself was actually a lot harder than the chunk of business that we lost, where we had to come back from, because it was personal, you know. This wasn't like someone sitting far away that you never met. So, you know, that in itself, again, it taught you a lot. And at that time, as angry and frustrated as you are, you sort of like get to a point where you also have to realize that your business is your responsibility. And if you have people or shady deals or whatever the case might be, I mean, we all know of people who are just in it for a quick buck, or end up damaging relationships because of the way that they go about things. These things end up happening, you know. And I had to get to a point where I realized that a lot of what happened was also my responsibility. It's again that blame game, you know. And if you come from this background of, once again, the rugby thing, where it's all about you, you often struggle to take responsibility when things don't go well. And I think that helped me through that, was just once again to take responsibility, to realize that there are certain things that I could have done to stop this from happening. I had to learn from that. Also had to forgive. I mean, we're on speaking terms again, myself and this friend of mine. And that was something that had to come from me, you know, because you end up moving into a place where you have you almost lose faith in humanity, to be honest, Jasper. I mean, that's where it was at, you know, because I mean, loyalty is something that you don't see much of anymore in society, in the world we're living in right now. It's almost like it's unheard of, you know. People don't speak of loyalty anymore. I mean, that's the way my parents taught me. Loyalty is one of the most important things. Your name is one of the most important things that you have. Make sure you never diminish your reputation. And I think it's just as difficult as it is to sort of like come to the reality that everybody has, like, the world is an evil place, man. We all have downfalls. We all have failures. We're all sinful. Like, that's our nature. You know, there's this evil part within us all. And that's a completely different story in its own. You don't want to go into a religious conversation now, but we are of a sinful nature. And I'll never forget this. There's a bit that I read in a book. The book's called Mastery by Robert Greene. And he tells the story of Benjamin Franklin, who came to this realization that if you can approach life with the knowingness that every single person in your life, who you know, who you care for, and who you think cares for you, is going to let you down at some or other stage in your life and in your journey. If you can just get to that realization and have that expectation to know that is life. People are people. We are going to let people down. People are going to let us down. That's once again going to help you to sort of get over yourself quicker.
Yeah.
You know, to get over that process quicker, because once again, I mean, that took me a while, because I was like, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. You flabbergasted. You're so blown away. How can people do this? You almost can't even imagine the extent to which people would go by certain things that they do. You're so blown away. But the reality is it's going to happen. It's going to happen. People are people, and that's the way we are. We all have that thing inside of ourselves. So we need to manage that as best as we can, and we need to know that, you know, it's going to happen to us. It's going to happen to all of us. And I think that helps you to get over yourself a bit easier and a lot quicker.
Now, something that helped me as well, because I also struggled with stuff like that. And I think what I've learned was that very little people do have the intention to be a bad person. Nobody wakes up this morning and see, how can I be difficult, or how can I be bad, doing bad things to Jasper or to Gary? I mean, this is not somebody's intention to be bad. But
Yeah.
I mean, but everybody do the best I can on the current consciousness and awareness that they are, and the maturity level that they are. So I learned to not to criticize somebody that I believe doing something wrong against me, because what I teach, but what I tell my staff at Dryk Holdings as well a lot is that if a client reacts to you in a bad way and you've done nothing wrong, it's take it from that person's perspective of his level of maturity and respect level of himself. It's not towards you. You don't attract that part to you. You do the best that you can, and with the best integrity that you can, and accept that every person do have their own path and have their own level of awareness and consciousness and maturity. So that's the way I've swifted my mind, in the sense of I can't control anybody else than myself.
Yeah.
And I need to be the best person I can be, but I can't control anybody the way they react to me.
What you mentioned regarding maturity is so spot on. And I mean, that's the stage I had to get to myself, to say, listen, you being immature, like you, Gary, you being immature. I mean, that's you continuously moaning and griping about this, about the way people hurt you and your disbelief in their actions. But that's a level of maturity, yes. But I mean, if you're very confident in yourself and your ability, and you're willing to take responsibility, then a lot of these things won't move you as much as what they do. And I think that is definitely an emotional maturity. Like it's an EQ, it's an emotional intelligence, at a level that you need to strive towards getting to be able to manage your emotions much better in those kinds of circumstances.
something that you mentioned actually, just a few minutes ago, is the personal responsibility that you took from that occurrence of that thing that happened. And my wife also always talk about setting up boundaries. So if you look at the little block there, and you're inside of the block, and I'm telling Gary, this is my boundaries, and I let Gary into my boundaries, I need to take absolute personal responsibility of my actions and my responsibility of letting you go into that parameters of my block. So I think that's very important. I'm not saying that happened to you, but that's something I learned as well, is in every situation, there's always my part in it. And if I start learning to take absolute personal responsibility of what happened, and most of the time it's letting people into that boundary space of mine, which I from the start said it can't be. So set that boundaries right from the start, and then if don't allow people to come into that parameters or that boundaries.
Yeah, really good.
So just lastly, let's see if there's any questions or any comments. I see Relene Faber is here. Gary, you're a legend. And she said, I'm speaking English much better, much more deliciously today.
Really, for those who know Relene, she's a legend. That's what
she's definitely right on that one. Gary is a legend. He's a very good person. So I'm just saying that because I'm on air, not because of anything else.
I know.
So Gary, what are you up to? Just maybe lastly, what are you up to currently? I know you're still in network marketing. What all other things that you guys busy serving people?
You will not believe it if I told you the truth, Jasper. But
I won't. I won't tell as well.
well, driving the health and wellness business as hard as possible, and using these online methods and models as much as we can, especially with lockdown. So that's definitely the main focus at the moment. Then running a sports academy on the side as well, helping people in Standerton in the town. I'm coaching their kids rugby, using sport as a way to educate, using sports as a way to uplift and inspire, build kids' character. And then we've actually started a ratepayers association in Standerton, in the town where we're living in right now. That's something else that we're busy with to fix the town, to start community initiatives to better manage things within the town. And we've got another meeting tonight regarding that. That's been an interesting process, but it's another way of finding meaning in small things. I mean, we've been cut in terms of electricity. I mean, we go days without electricity. Some days we have at most 2-3 hours electricity because we've got national load shedding, but our own municipality owes Eskom billions of rands. So they've implemented their own internal load shedding, and we've sort of become fed up with that and trying to fight that process. So we've got a group of people in town that are actually busy serving on this committee of ours and willing to sort of make a difference. And once again, I was super frustrated. You can imagine when this thing exploded on us. And I mean, instead of moaning and griping, sort of like just trying to do something about it. And once again, trying to find meaning in the madness. So I think those three elements are sort of like what we're busy doing at the moment.
Yeah, I must say, I just wanted to almost grab the word out of my mouth, but that's a good thing about a lot of people keep on complaining, and that's not just South Africa. I mean, that's all over the world. I mean, I know a lot of people all over the world. So I see that in all kinds of places, and I hear that in all kinds of places. Stop complaining and take action. If you want to make a difference in South Africa, start making a difference. Don't complain. Don't jump on Facebook and say, "Oh, it's bad president," or whatever the case may be. Make a difference.
So if anyone's willing to become the next mayor of Standerton, you're really part of.
There you go. We go for Gary. And just lastly, I actually want to comment you on you guys going into lockdown, especially with the network marketing, because I'm on various of your Facebook groups that you guys added me as well, which I'm very grateful for. And just I'm observing the shift from doing whatever you've been doing before lockdown, and all of a sudden it's like a massive movement that you started online on your various groups. I mean, there's obviously various leaders with various groups, but you all do the same thing about value adding all the time. It's no selling at all. It's value adding. You just attract the people that need to be attracted. So that's the swift I think everybody needs to do in their business, to stop asking for money, stop be there just for the money, and start adding that value. I mean, you guys do it on a, well, I'm not exactly sure, but at least a weekly basis. You have group meetings on Facebook where anybody can go to, and I mean, it's just great having those awesome energy, positive energy with all the people. I think that's the greatest thing. You don't even have to be on a network marketing company. It's just this massive energy that you surround yourself with, of people doing great things. So yeah, well done for you and for everybody else that you are, I mean, in conversation with all your peers. That, I mean, the guy, I've really seen that, and it's amazing how you add value. I mean, I'm all about adding value, because you can't accept or receive abundance if you don't add value. I mean, it's a two-way stream. Money, or whatever you want to look at that, it's energy flow, and you can't receive a lot if you don't give a lot. So Gary V, the other Gary V, the other bad one, not the South African one, he actually listened to a talk about on him this morning, just to get inspired with Gary V. I mean, and for my Gary V interview today. So but he talked about jab, right hook. So it's about giving value, and then ask for to be of value to that person. Not taking, because I think that's the biggest thing, and it's not part of this topic today, but it's all about, if you want to grow a successful business, you need to add value. And it's a difficult thing for us in South Africa. I know you've been doing that as well, even before lockdown. I mean, you started the whole movement of education and everything. So maybe, I know this is not part of this interview at all, but do you have any advice to any person right now in a total offline business? And I know you're in digital marketing as well, so that's why I'm asking you. Any advice to any person out there that's really stuck in a business that's totally offline, and he knows he needs to get there, but he doesn't even know how to start, and don't have the confidence of showing himself to the world? Because I think when you start showing yourself to the world, your authentic self, you will attract the right people to you. You won't attract everybody, but that's okay. You just attract the right people to you. So I don't want to put you on the spot, but any advice to, I know you've got experience in that.
Yeah, I think you definitely put me on the spot, because it's a difficult question to answer, because people are in different industries. But I think what it comes down to is, I think you have to realize, one thing you have to realize is that if you are not online, and online is very, very vast, like there's different aspects to building online. It's not just having a website. It's not just being on Facebook. But you need to go and study, learn, and become an expert in your field, and go and have a look at what other people in your industry have been doing to cope with what's happening right now. Go and invest in some courses on how to brand yourself online. Go and invest in some tools to learn how to build your business online. Like you said, adding value. Now, how do you add value, Jasper? That's the next thing, So that's a complex, goes into like a lot of detail in terms of that. But go and research. I mean, I think there's enough information out there for people to learn and to grow, and they should utilize that. And by growing yourself, I think is a very, very important aspect. When all you're thinking about is the bottom line, it can sometimes be a dangerous place to be, because growing yourself and becoming the best version of yourself and becoming an expert in your field and investing in things that can better your business, learning about those things. Go buy a course on digital marketing. Udemy is a great platform that you can use. Udemy, you can get like courses for 150, 200 Rand on how to build a business online and how to start building a brand online. And growing yourself is going to help you to grow your business. essentially. I mean, Jim Rohn always says, for things to change, you've got to change. And stop looking outwards, start looking inwards. And once again, start taking responsibility and take ownership for what's yours. But the whole thing around values is moving away from the thing of, I'm just trying to sell you something and my product's the best, my product is great, and ooh, here I am. No, everybody's selling their products everywhere. So rather talk about those benefits that product has, but instead of doing that, start educating people and giving them value that can better their lives, that can better their circumstance, and in ways in which your product can better their lives. Don't sell your product, but sell the benefits of it and add value in terms.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I think, and it's a difficult thing because the new well, it's not the new wave for Africa. I mean, it's been the new wave for America and those kind of places for quite some time now. But the new way of marketing is video. I mean, and it's great because Gary is putting up videos there for everybody to see, and I can resonate with Gary or not. But that's a great way of filtering your client base or people that you attract before they even get to you. And it's a difficult process to get to this place, but just be happy with be the authentic person you are. There's a lot of people that don't like me, and there's a lot of people that like me, but I can't do anything about that.
True.
So I think the most difficult thing is to get to a point that you are comfortable of being on a video camera, of adding value. One of my latest mentors are for the last about years, Evan Carmichael.
You gotta forgive me, Jasper. I'm just moving to a different place here. Charmaine's got an art class.
Okay, but I'll keep going. So I think for the last about year, I've got a mentor, Evan Carmichael. He's got a belief channel on YouTube with about 2.3 million subscribers. So I'm under his YouTube program, YouTube Bootcamp, and something that he said actually. I mean, somebody that knows him and knows he speaks with a lot of confidence. And what he's done is it took him, I think, 350 videos to do before he become comfortable of doing that videos. So his first 350 videos, I know he talks about he had friends or sisters or or his sister, whatever the case may be, who had to put up the camera, zoom in, put the record button, and then they had to leave the room because he was too afraid for the first 350 videos to be speaking in front of anybody except for the camera. And I'm speaking for myself. I'm sure for you as well. I don't like to listen to my recordings or my replays at all. I like to hear my voice. I mean, it's weird to hear yourself, but I think the more you do it, the more comfortable you become. And if you start pursuing your purpose and your ikigai, it becomes more important to you than how you appear on a camera. Because Absolutely. You're authentic and you just do your thing because you want to add value and you want to provide value to whoever want to listen to this. So yeah, that's my few cents of that I've experienced in my time doing this.
Absolutely.
So great. I think that's about it. There's no more comments or anything, and I think we've been going for an hour and a half, or what was it? Almost an hour and a half.
That's why I apologize for that, Charmaine. She does art classes in the afternoon, and we're busy building and hoe sê hulle bou en breek bietjie hier aan die huis. So I was invading her studio setup that she had. So I've been officially out.
Kicked out.
There, but it's been awesome, Jasper. It's been really good.
It's always great having you. It's always great just having a chat with you, whether it's online, offline, doesn't matter. It's always great having a conversation with you, always inspiring. So yeah, thank you very much. And sharing your story, that's difficult to sharing a story of overcoming adversity. That's really tough. So yeah, well done for that. And also thank you very much, because I believe you will be inspiring a lot of other people by been doing that today.
Thank you, Jasper. Thank you for the opportunity as well. And yeah, congratulations on your great job and the work that you're doing as well. It's been a lot of fun. So I hope it could add some value.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your day. Cheers, everybody. Thank you.